The National Youth Council of Nigeria and the Conference of Civil Society for Peace, Security and National Development have accused politicians of fueling insecurity in the country for their selfish political gains, particularly ahead of the 2027 general elections. In a press conference on Wednesday, Ambassador Solomon Adodo, president of the National Youth Council of Nigeria, condemned the alleged actions of these politicians, stating that they are prioritizing power over the lives of citizens. Insecurity must never be weaponized for political ambition, Adedo emphasized. The groups, however, commended the bravery and sacrifice of the armed forces, particularly the Chief of Defense Staff and the Chief of Army Staff, for their efforts in dismantling terrorist networks and restoring peace. The civil society groups urge citizens to reject divisive policies and support security agencies in their efforts to restore peace. They also called for better welfare for troops and accountability for those found complicit in fueling insecurity. The development comes amid escalating insecurity in the country, with many Nigerians expressing concerns over the government's ability to address the issue. The 2027 general elections are expected to be a crucial test for the country, and the allegations of politicians fueling insecurity for political gain have raised concerns about the potential for further instability.
Insecurity facing our beloved fatherland. You will observe that cases of insecurity have been on the rise across our communities. Fear and uncertainty have taken root. Families have lost their loved ones. Businesses have suffered, and our collective peace is under siege and threat. What makes the situation even more threatening and distressing is the growing suspicion that some unscrupulous politicians are fueling this crisis for their own selfish purposes, especially as we approach the 2027 elections. And we must sound a warning to these politicians who are trying to fuel insecurity for political gains, that without a nation Nigeria, there will be no 2027 general elections. So we urge them to refrain from their negative antics. Let us state categorically and unequivocally clear that insecurity must never be weaponized for political ambition. Yet, credible intelligence and troubling reports suggest that some politicians are actively sponsoring these acts of violence, are aiding criminal elements and arming bandits, and manipulating the public sentiments to undermine the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. To these actors, chaos is merely a strategy to discredit the administration and advance their own political interests ahead of the 2027 general elections. When politicians prioritize power over the lives of citizens, they betray the very essence of leadership. We must demand accountability, and thus, those found complicit of these heinous acts must face the full wrath of the law, regardless of their status, affiliation, or political inclination. May we therefore use this medium to call on the security agencies to tighten the noose on these anti-patriotic elements, fish them out, investigate them, and prosecute them very thoroughly. Amidst these sponsored challenges, we must recognize and commend the bravery and sacrifice of our armed forces, the men and women of the military, police, and other agencies of our security who put their lives on the line daily to protect our nation and ensure that the sovereignty of our nation is not tampered with in any way. We profoundly commend the commitment of the Chief of the Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, and the Chief of the Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Olotumbusi Oloyede, who have worked assiduously to ensure that our territorial integrity is protected. Under their command, our armed forces have made significant strides Under their command, our armed forces have made significant strides in quelling and tackling insecurity and in dismantling the networks of these terrorists, neutralizing bandits, and destroying the operational strongholds and bases of ISWAP and Boko Haram terrorists. Their dedication, amid limited resources and undue criticisms, remain a beacon of hope for our dear nation, Nigeria. Despite being overstretched and sometimes utterly criticized, they have continued to fight on the front lines to restore peace and security in our nation, Nigeria. We owe our armed forces gratitude and